Ahora estamos. Kaixo Arratsaldeon, buenas tardes. Good afternoon, ongietorriak izan zaitezte Donostia Zinemaldiko Nest sailaren baitan antolatzen diren elkarrizketetara. Sed bienvenidas a las clases magistrales o conversaciones organizadas dentro del mar.
Welcome to the film talks organized in this section of the festival. We've just seen the last production by Little Spain, which was debuted this year. It's the first time as a director for Anton Alvarez, and we can also talk about his musical achievements. And he's been accompanied in this project by Yerai Cortés and Rodriguez, both in front and behind the camera. I'm not going to go a lot into their history because they can introduce themselves and they can present themselves by talking to them. I'd like them to tell us about their intersections, how your roads crossed, as it were. Hi, did you like it? Well, I met Javi, I think, when was the first time we met? It was before Cándido. I think it was in Barcelona. Even before? In Alcorcón, in a local, in a place, which was a place where we danced hip-hop. That's it. Javi comes from the rapping scene, so we've been seeing each other for a long, long time. And we had, from time to time, we got together. It wasn't like in the last days, also with the Metropole Studio, which is like a mythical, anthropological, and some of the best in the world, actually in Madrid. And we have shared a lot. We worked a lot on new music, and with Yerai, well, it's explained at the movie. One day I was called by David Limon, and he got me into a big party at his place, and that's where I met him, where he was playing not longer than 3-4 years, something like that, 3-4 years ago. So this movie is obviously a musical about a musician composed by 3 musicians, and it's true that it's you have dedicated very beautiful songs to your family, and this happened before you did the movie. But once you started with this project, I think that the question of the chicken and the egg has to be asked. What was first, the direction of? Did you have the concept of the documentary, or did the music come before, or did both things happen at the same time? Well, the structure of almost all the songs was already there, at least the heart and the core, what the story they told, and also the composition, and of course all that came from Yerai, that was more or less already there. But after the movie, there was, but from the movie there were also words being written. We asked other people to participate, bailadores, singers, dancers, and some things were included that were provoked by the documentary. So it was like a mixture of all. And at the beginning, we had a more musical intention, and in the end, it ended up being a lot more narrative. But I think the balance is right, because especially for somebody who's not a particular fan of flamenco music or music in general, it's much better to have just a small doses because each musical scene has its own space, and we're not kind of overwhelming people with the scenes. So that's exactly what I wanted to ask about the musical structure. We could talk about the cinematographic structure, but musically, there's a structure. There's an incredible scene of live sound, not only in the conversations, also some of the songs that are played live. And there's also some videos, and I think that they also help to follow the story, and they have words that are also telling a bit of the story of the movie. So how was it to tidy up, to order the music of the movie? You can talk about a few things here about this. I think the one that's best organized of all is this guy that we've got next to us here, and he's been checking, keeping an eye on everything. Yes, but the order, the narrative order, has to do, of the songs, has to do with the actual narrative order of the movie. I was really keen to tell my story, to tell things that happened to me. I have the need to talk about it, to make it explicit. I'm a guitar player. All I can tell is with my guitar, with notes, with chords, with my hands, and to think about a narrative and an order, and especially in putting images, and to make what in the end came out, which is an incredible movie. Well, putting order in all of that is incredible. You don't really know if the movie has composed things for us, or has written the songs for us, or if we have written for the movie. But the way it was shot, I think also the record has been recorded, and the way we said this many times, and when we went to Alicante, we said, we have to connect this. I have to talk about this with my mother. I have to talk about this with my father, and with my friends. And then we came back with, I don't know, 7 things more. And the order of all that was what, in the end, the movie looks the way it is. So the movie is the record is the album is the movie. Hi. And then there is another order, which is very important for me, another person that tied it all up, because Pucho and I, when we sit down to talk about the aesthetics of the record, the aesthetics of the movie, the song, the sound, the music, what we want to talk about, what we always gave value to was the crude, the raw, the ordinary, the noise. We liked to hear in the recordings all this scenic part, the birds, the dogs, a car passing by. So all that was included inside the musical piece, not just the visual. So, of course, imagine having to deal with getting 35 gypsies in a park all around us, all shouting, screaming, singing, harmonizing. And this guy, who is a genius of that, for that, has an incredible sensitivity. And then later, he had to put lots of tracks together, and he's had to clean some parts, that dirt that was there, but without forgetting to leave the dirt, the natural dirt, as it were, the human dirt, if you like. And I think that for us, it's an incredible work, and it's you know, and he has a lot to say, actually. Yeah. It's been very, very hard, obviously, to record something that is yours and having to make it sound good and having to do it on the street with people shouting and people screaming and with portable things and anti-studio conditions, if you like, that we suffered, as you can imagine. But when you get to the lab, you open a track and you can hear everything. There isn't just the guitar there. So, well, you do suffer, but, well, you manage to get there. That's maybe I'm asking you to predict the future, but do you think that making this movie is going to change the way you write songs in the future, you write your music. For me, it's changed completely. I came from something that was like including the organic, and I was a rapper. And we kind of like came up with this thing. We wanted to link to this urban thing, basically to get money, but always making music that we liked. But I had a personal search towards the organic because, I don't know, music seemed kind of dead. And this has taken me a step forward, and also thanks to Yerai's vision of flamenco, because what is authentic to him, it's not this flamenco that happens on the stage, it's what happens when people get together. And there's something about live music, and this is going to change from now on. I'm sure the tendency is going to be, all video clips, all music videos are going to be to see people playing instruments and doing it live is something that people are going to value a lot more. And I think it's not anymore so popular to see people, perfect performances, etc. I think that it's much more interesting to see people live, and I think the young people are going to find things, something that's been done all our lives, they're going to find it very moved, and they're so used to all super edited images, and I think that is going to change people, and it's changed me, and in particular, the technical counterpoint was to make the experience is in a sense you're making music sound worse, because it's life itself. Just like we had a pan stereo on the camera, so because we wanted to see how it sounded from the point of view of the camera, and some things have been exaggerated, obviously, or some things were altered at the studio, but to make the voice go up and go down. When it comes to the sort of music video part, it sounds a little bit not natural, but I think that everybody feels that when you're looking at it, when you're watching it, that the music is more alive, that it has is more authentic, it's more organic, and I think that to our generation and the generation that's coming along is going to motivate us a lot, because we were so used to perfect sounds and hyper-recorded things, and what we are moved with all of a sudden, it's a video, this is a YouTube video recorded with a mobile, somebody who's drunk and who's wrong and making mistakes all the time and everything, and everybody gets really moved with that. Oh, wow, because this is real, and then, it's recorded in a studio, and it's fucking shit. It's changed me so much. He's moved by it. No, this is nothing new, really. But all I record, if I record a piano, I put a mic on the floor so that I can hear the thumps of the foot, or now sound, very clean sound is kind of boring, and it has a lot to do with this experience. In those answers that you gave, Anton, you talked about the perspective, and there's something about, obviously this movie has been directed by you, and it's about Yerai's family, of course, but also you are present there, and in the first scene, especially, it reminds you more of the classic films, but your presence is also behind the camera. And there's a moment when Yerai asks you to stop, and it's up to you to cut or not. And so you're doing, the right thing after all that generosity, who is allowing you to film. So I want to know how you lived through this experience of these 3-4 years. Well, I felt a big responsibility, moral responsibility, more than ever. I've always tried to be like, I don't care, this kind of like happy-go-lucky guy. But a lot of people ask me, this Villar, a director friend of mine who asked me about political decisions that are made about the movie, and I tried to tell Luis that I would like to be a bit more cynical and for there not to be like a political thing underneath, just an emotion, and that's all. Yerai is hyper emotional, and I just want to talk about those emotions.
Luego te haces amigo de María.
But then you become a friend of Maria's, and when you become a friend of Maria's, and then you become something personal, is she going to feel okay with her image? And in the end, you get involved like that. But there isn't any previous intention. I didn't say, I'm going to do this to explain, or some people ask me about the gypsies. What did you want to talk about the gypsies? I don't want to talk about anything, anybody. I don't want to express a political opinion, but I am worried about what people in Madrid think of Miguel, because they're my friends and I want them to look good, and I want them to, even if I have to manipulate reality a little bit so that my friends look okay. For me, it's a little bit political, but I do it because it's a bit what ended up happening. But maybe what I did that I feel the most emotional responsibility for. I said, well, if I do make a mistake and the woman that I'm with is angry, or my mother or a friend, well, it's up to them. But if somebody gets bothered because it's provoking, then fine. But no, that's not. It wasn't just me here at stake, and that was. That affected me quite a lot. And picking up on the responsibility thing, I had my own responsibility with my own parents, because my parents, I said to my dad, I want to make a video with Bulerías. I'll go to the end of the world with you. But when we put the cameras at home, and when we started talking about things that were inside there, I had a responsibility, because I know my father is doing it for me, for my sake, but my father doesn't have a consciousness of how far or where this is going to get. And we've talked about this a lot. And it was really easy to do it with Puto, because what I was clear about is that if I got into this, in this kind of puddle, it was exclusively because things either could remain the way they were, or that they improved 100%. But from there to getting to a worse situation, that my parents were more, had a worse relationship, or that I couldn't have those conversations with Tanya, for example, that I was clear about that when it came to editing and how you tell the story. I wanted it to happen like this. And going back to feeling recorded for 3 years, well, what has made me feel this time is to learn, because something's happened to me. I don't know if people do this at the cinema. I also feel the same, because this is the first time that I've been on the spotlight like this. And there was something that I thought that when you get a camera in the middle, the first thing that you feel, or that comes out, is to protect yourself, to kind of like sort of lie a little bit, to hide, to say, oh, everything's fine, and keep everything inside. But what I realized that when a camera is on top of you, the most difficult thing to do is to lie. Your body, your mind wants to tell the things from the inside, and especially from the outside. To see my parents when I'm not with them and simply they're with Pucho, because my parents are not my parents there. My parents are friends. Of course, my father always talks to me as a father and my mother as a mother. So to see my parents, to actually know them when I'm not there, has made me get to know them a lot better, to get to know more about myself, and to see myself from the outside and I say, wow, here You are still not clear about certain things here. Well, it's okay not to be clear about everything, but it's hard also not to have, and that's why we're doing these things. But that's why we do these kinds of things. Because, so this is a gift that this man has given me. And it's a present, actually, from this man. So it's transparent, the movie. You're always looking for an identity. And it's also with the movie, with your life, with your music. And it also happens cinematographically with the musician, with the director. There's also Javier. There are lots of stories behind everything. I also wanted to ask you about, like the cinema as a healer, as a catharsis. How did you live this process? And also talk about a little bit about identity. Well, that's another thing that we didn't look for, that seems to come out on its own. When you face something like this, you kind of, from my point of view, the question was about what kind of a director I am, or whether I am a director to begin with. But then the most interesting things led us in that direction. The only thing that I was worried about is what are the emotions that from Yerai for him to have written this. I can explain to somebody a story, and then when he listens or hears Yerai, then they can say, "Oh, now it makes sense." I don't need to explain whether it's a fandango or whether it's a soleá, but I can. It reaches me, it gets to me. But of course, all these things come up, and of course, one of the questions there is identity, specifically with Yerai. There's an explanation where he says that his one foot is in one world and the other one in the other world, and it's like how can the same person write for Farruquito and for Maria Molina? How the two sides of the same coin, but it's there. It's like West Coast and East Coast at the same time, and you're a producer of both. And whenever you can't, kind of thing. But I think that that's one of the things that are the coolest about Yerai. And I think that in that search, you end up seeing that that happens to him because he is also like that inside, where his identity is forged through when I'm here, and I can belong, and everybody feels okay with me, and I'm comfortable here. And when I go to this other place, I also feel the same, and I understand, and I know what they're going to like, and I know how they're going to get emotional, how they're going to be moved. It's very particular. I think there are very few people that can do that in their own genre. I don't know. To make independent cinema that is like seen by people, and to have a kind of language, and at the same time, I don't know, Guinepolis is complicated. So that kind of people that are capable of being in both places, in two places, is very interesting. The subject of identity is there even if we don't want to. So it always happens to me as I'm a Madrillian. There is a definition of what you're like, and I've been carrying that definition all my life. How do you feel in your identity? What's your ID like? It's not expired. Well, the question of identity, I think I don't even have the words. I don't have the formula. I still don't understand many things of the question of identity, but what I do understand that it's a kind of like a drive. It's an impulse. It's either you either go forward, or else you get stuck, and this identity problem is always there. Like I say in this movie, I want people in my family to see me, to recognize me as I am, because a person that comes from the gypsy world, very gypsy and totally gypsy, and then you go to another contemporary, modern, It's like I've got it in my music. There's like pure flamenco and modern music. And it's true that very often you say, where am I? And especially when you see that both worlds that you belong to, but love you. And you think, well, why do they love me? Why do you love me? Is it because I'm making you love me when I'm here and I'm using the language? I get dressed like you, I dress like you, and here I do the same. And then often my girlfriend, Tanya, says to me, in this interview or in this place with this man, you speak Sevillian or more sort of with an Andalusian accent, and in other places, I try to pretend the sophisticated one, and then I speak a little bit more posh. So very often I say, I don't realize that when I'm doing it. But I think it's positive that I don't notice it, and I think we all have to be a bit like a chameleon for survival, and we want to be liked, and we want to be accepted, and we want to be loved. Not just gypsy and non-gypsy people, or flamenco, or modern music, or in the people that have a lot of money, that come from people with money, families, and then all of a sudden they meet up with me and they like to be in an inn, and you're here. And you come from the completely different world, and is it a problem? No. Maybe it's a step forward because your heart wants to feel like that. I come from my grandma, she makes coffee with water from a fountain, and I love to be with these guys where they take me to a place where they say, oh, the wine has an aroma, and it also like that. So I think we're all trying to find, we're all in a moment where it's very hard to tag people. It's very hard to say who we are, to label us. It's just, and I could go into sentimental genres. It's very difficult. I would like to take away the word, from saying I have an identity problem. I like to take away the word problem. I'm in a search for my identity. And my humble identity problem as well is that it's what you were talking about, changing your name as well. If you come from from being a hip hop producer and your name is Javier Rodriguez, that kind of doesn't have a punch like Javier says. Yes. So you kind of have to find a name. And then the next day you're with Aitana, and the next day with Soledad, and you don't know. It's complicated to have a name that joins, that links everybody. If you say Javier Rodriguez, nobody's going to remember your name. So it's also that conflict of identity, which has nothing to do with your roots. Yeah. And Arto is neutral. Arto is the typical nickname from my childhood, and there you are. Before we ask the public to ask questions. I wanted to ask about two aspects of the movie that I understand have to do with the direction part. I think it's very curious that with it being a documentary, it was filmed in Filmico. And we know it's very expensive. In fiction, it's a lot more measured, so it seemed almost anachronical to use this technique for a documentary, because obviously you have to edit conversations, and unless you have, unless you have all the solutions, using this seems a problem. And there's another moment, the most structural problem, moment in the movie. The movie is almost anecdotal, and there's a lot of different moments that jump and intertwine in each other. So sometimes Tanya's hair is blonde, sometimes it's long, sometimes it's short. So yes, the music, the movie is based on the on the fact that there's nothing better to give it a bit of a mystery than to film in filmical, and you have a body, and this is what you have, and it takes you the time to load it, and it gives it a feeling of shooting that reminds you of how to make the music. So it has to do with things that happen in reality, not to put things that are extra. And if you can only make a few shots, the one you keep is not going to be perfect. And I think it's a lot more fun to do it like that, to do it on film. When you do it on digital, it's more thrilling for sure. But it's true that you can have, you can go through hard moments. When I record in digital, I will, I don't know, there's no empty spaces, we'll shoot as much as we can. But there are certain limits that I think work really well, because the music was thought out like that, and that's how we did the rest. And in 35 and 16, and a very small digital part, which we maintained the respect to Escapao. But yes, and that was the idea. So what was the other question? And as to the structure, of course, for me, the most important part is the formal structure of the emotions, how they start reaching you. So if I'm going to close with the almond trees, which is a love song, but a digi-evolution evolved that I don't know by these two creatures that I don't know where they come from, and they have these conversations. I don't know. I've never seen a relationship where they have this capacity, this ability to talk about things, to love each other, to understand each other. So of course you have to tell a story. There's got to be a bit of a breakup, so that song comes to you with the emotion that they have and the emotion that Yerai puts in. And the same with all the scenes with the park. It's not about time, chronological time. It's about from where the emotions that you start off, so that when the music arrives, you are completely in rapture, and that's what brought us quite a few problems because of those cuts. Different scenes, different moments, and I think it's something that is a good aspect of the movie. And I think we've achieved that structurally. You're constantly feeling that things are going somewhere. There's a moment in the movie where there was like you see something, and then you saw something, and something else, and I felt like at the end of the day, the movie this manages to kind of to be entertaining, to kind of like start in a place and accompany you and take you somewhere, rather than saying, this is a part where you're going to be bored, or this I'm going to make something uncomfortable. But I think it's, you start off in a place and you continue, you're accompanied to the end. It's a bit like showing the videos that were already pre-recorded by Yerai. But when you saw your aunties, there I'm an actor. Hey, I'm on sale here, I'm an actor. No, listen. I'd like to add something to what the first question that you asked Butcher about how it was recorded in 35 millimeters. All those things that he explained. 43, 29, 19. That to me, when you said about the axis of the movie, or there's an axis that reaches a point, and there's nowhere else where you can go. And to me, that's the most flamenco thing that exists, because it's a very flamenco way to shoot, even if it wasn't a flamenco scene. It's a very flamenco way of doing things, because Remedios Amaya also has this axis, this body. And he says, will you do another one? Look, I've come here to sing, and I've already sung. If you want to repeat, her axis finished. She did 2 shoots. 2 shots, and we asked her to do it twice because in the first one we had a few mistakes. We knocked off the camera. Arnau thought he had to go somewhere, and there was a problem, and then Farrogueto was starting again. These kinds of things that happen. The choreography of the photography director is also the first mix, the first edition that you make, depending on where the camera is. Of course, imagine me talking to photography directors who are really open and they don't have sort of fixed ideas. They're totally able to listen, and they want. It's not about the photo; it's more about the movie. They care about that. So imagine trying to explain to them, if you put the camera somewhere else, well, you're gonna fuck up my theme. I need you to listen to me. I need you to go where I want you to go. So you have to explain the structure of a flamenco theme, and then the flamencos do whatever the hell they want with the structure. But sometimes, if they want to stay on the chord, they stay on the chord, or they stop, they go. And the good thing is that it's a rapper that's explaining to you how flamenco works. So, yes, it's a miracle, actually, yes. But, well, it was particularly funny in that, and it gives a particular flavor. Arnau, for example, it's practically impossible to make him nervous because he teaches what he does, So to manage to make him nervous because he knows that that it's important. It has a lot of value because that in this digital world, if something doesn't come out right, we can do it again and again and again and again. And for me, the number of shots, I agree totally. And the fact that it's limited, it helps. But the problem is that number of shots have to be prepared and everything has to be perfect when the sun is exactly there and not over there. And that's the extra pressure. It's a number, but in a very short span of time. So if anything fails at that moment, you are fucking up a production of a lot of money and a lot of effort. And there hasn't been a single time when something hasn't been a mistake or there hasn't been a mortal drama. We were doing some crazy things, but not that they were strange, but they weren't habitual. For example, having the static camera, having the camera there gave us a lot of problems, and the photographer was never comfortable, and there were things that came out of the instrument that he usually uses, and then the focusing on the music all the time, and it was really good when all the material came and you just heard the stereo of the camera, and the feeling was that you were kind of like inside the flamenco party, and I'm dying to see what happens when we actually come out of the whole thing and people can listen on headphones, because it's obviously the experience is 7. It's been filmed on 7.1, but it's also about the intimacy of the headphones and you alone on the screen. I think that is also going to be a special connection with the space of what happens in the scene. In fact, the noise of the camera was always a problem that in the end it's always there because it was an element that we actually liked. At first, it was like, how can we avoid the sound of the camera when the microphone is on top of the camera? And in the end, we ended up liking it. And to me, I'm remembering what you said at the beginning. I'm a rapper, and I started getting fascinated by the organic, and I began in this world. All these things that happen, in terms of technique and recording, and those things that you find along the way, and you say the only solution is to leave them there. I feel that is what we were talking about before. We want to include live. We want to put live inside the songs, inside the movie, and even the mistakes, or those mistakes that we call mistakes, but they're actually becoming a part of the composition of the work. and you don't just embrace it. It's just what there is. This is the way it was. That's the way we played. Maybe I could have played a lot better in some parts of the movie, but I could never have played them in exactly the same way. So that's what there was. And I feel that that is connected to what you said at the beginning, because we let life go through the music, and those mistakes are there, part of it. Yes, because there's a moment where technology has led us to do so many things that that infinite number of possibilities end up making everything dead. It's like a point of disgusting, dead, essentially. It's horrible, to listen to flamenquito when it all sounds perfect and with the, with the palmas all nice. It's just, it's dead. And then, my music, if you like, I don't know. I have no problem in admitting it. We're all, it's all about images, and everything is so studied, and on the studios, in the set, everything is so bland and it's so cold. And these limitations make you do things that are a lot more alive. And that thing that you can't control is actually helps to make everything more valuable, to have more weight, and to make it more emotional and more thrilling. So we're opening the microphones to the audience. I don't know if you have any questions.
Bueno, primero felicidades.
Well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you for the movie. I saw in the credits that Raúl Refe was in the credits. Just to ask you, he's a fantastic composer, and I wanted to ask you, a songwriter, what was his role in the movie? Well, we talked to him to try to make him be part of the production of the whole music part, but our shoots were very crazy. And sometimes from one day to the next, things were out of control. And he took part, specifically in the house, in the tangos. And he helped a little bit with the microphones and in recording. And then he was there in the seguidilla, and he proposed the idea that the extra element would be the organ. So that would be something positive. And our dream would have been for him to help us to design all this sound part, but it couldn't happen. And because he had these interventions, we wanted to thank him. And it was also very refreshing to talk to him about it and to see what he thought about things. But it couldn't be in the end. We would have liked to have had him as an external figure. I understand this, but I'm going to do the production, something like that. But in the end, we spent so many hours in the studio, and Gabriel, who is the one that did the whole sound of the movie, had to integrate everything that we took to him from the music to fill the lab. So big kiss to Refri. I'm sure we'll do something together one day. Well, congratulations for this massive project. We are doing us a massive favor to all the people that are in music and cinema, giving value to the music, to live music. What was the production plan? I'm curious about this. I've made a documentary, much more low cost, but when you get other people involved, and you have these limits and these deadlines, but this documentary kind of like walked on its own. And they had like an idea, an initial idea, and then at the end of the day, it was less musical than you'd thought. It was more narrative. So I wanted to know what was your planning at the first moment, and how did you kind of like adapt as you went along, so that this naturalness comes out in the documentary. Well, he is the producer, the movie producer. So I'm going to ask a big round of applause for her. We love you, Cristina. Well, the truth is that, like in any documentary, in fact, these days we were laughing because we were saying, God, I wish we could do some fiction, and because then you know what's going to happen and you have the script and everything is certain. In a documentary, you never know what's going to happen, but at the same time, it's the good point of it. So the very exercise of doing the documentary, it changes real life as well in itself. So there isn't a script from the start, and everything is very alive. And in that sense, there's been a lot of improvisation. There wasn't a specific planning. Things just came out. Pucho would come here. This is going to happen, and we have to film it. And Yerai would come up and say, we have to do this. And we were so lucky to be able to cooperate with people who were accessible to work with us in the project. But the truth is that there is an element of I was going to say courage, bravery, but maybe it's a lack of consciousness or just to go there without thinking and kind of like deciphering what the movie is about slowly, step by step. But we didn't have like a very definite plan, at least not in the production side. I think Pucho and Yerai were very clear about some things, but I wasn't so clear about things.
También hay que tener la suerte.
And you also have to be really lucky that there is a Cristina, that without a specific plan, I think that I'm going to be here for 3 years going crazy. And let's see if you can get somewhere in the end of the day. But it's also really worth it because you realize that you go, ignorance is wonderful. It gives you such bravery that other things don't give you. And you have to make the most of your impulses, and you have to do things without a lot of security. You have to do it basic. I mean, of course, obviously, there are a lot of things. There's a lot of people who know a lot about everything and will say, you didn't do this right, or you didn't do that right. But that idea of being totally ignorant of things and just trying out, I think it was really great.
Aquí, alguna pregunta.
Borracho.
Drunkard.
Bueno, hola.
Hi, thanks for the question and answers to all 4 of you, because I think the questions were very interesting. I think that being part of the audience is also fascinating, not just being a creator, but for movies like this. And I wanted to ask you, Yerai, it's very intimate, everything that you talk about. You are an artist. How you feel? It's hard to talk about your private life, and you do it all the way. Well, thanks for your question. I loved what you said. Well, it's always difficult to talk about one's person, and more when you've been always told to keep it inside, and you have to put on this front, this shield. Honestly, I never did it with a lot of, with kind of like a belief that I have to do this because I have to do this. No, it just came out, and it came out in a natural way. All the problems that I had at home, for example, throughout my teenager years, and Tanya knows, my girlfriend, I've been with her, thank God, almost 13 years. She with me and me with her. And throughout my teenage years, I tried to understand or look for or find, I don't know. I had this need for everything that happened at home to bloody stop, because they weren't doing me any good. And to feel that I had more or less spent everything that I had, all the energy that I had, and I had sat with one of them, I had sat with the other, and when I was 17, 18, and now when we started the movie, I think I was 28 when we started the movie, and I was lucky to be able to see things from a completely different perspective. The time has gone by. And honestly, it was the need to really talk about things and to tell my story. I felt like I was showing something that maybe I shouldn't show outside. Of course, it's something private and intimate, but it was just like the last hurdle that before I gave up. I'm a musician. I write songs. I'm able to make a movie that this man gave a gift to me. What a really nice last thing to do. Or it was very, very hard because nobody likes. We have killed each other 1,000 times. I have lost trust sometimes. And because I was thinking, will my life be seen as from an interesting point of view when I'm actually putting my life at stake? And he was like, we're going to do this, I'm going to get this, I don't want this to come out. And that was the first thing that came out. No, we'll do this, we'll do that. And you know, and the years were going by, and then when you see the end result, when you see the movie, and I thank the whole crew for making it possible, that nothing, you give importance to some things that who doesn't have a thing with a sister, with a brother, with a father, with a partner, and they don't know how to deal with them, and they don't feel identified with. So how nice it is to be able to tell your things and to be able to share them.
Me estoy poniendo acaramelado.
I'm getting a bit soppy. I think it's the wine.
Habría tiempo para una.
There would be time for just one more question. I'm sorry. Yes, time has gone by so quickly. Now that Yerai was getting hot.
Hola, bueno, la pregunta sería para.
Hi. The question is for Anton. Despite last year you presented at this festival your first movie as a director, at the beginning you said that you still had that fear to learn if you were going to be able to make a movie, if you were going to be up to the role. And now, talking about identity, do you consider that your musical career could be also like a crisis of identity in a way? Well, actually, what we presented last year was directed by Chris and Santos and Roge, who's not here now. So to me, it wasn't a movie that was made by me. It's true that I was in it, and Little Spain produced it, so it has my kind of like body stink, body odor, but I don't feel a parent of that, whereas this is a movie that I have made from the top to bottom, from beginning to end, and I have directed it. The other one, I don't feel that way. And, well, as to the identity crisis, there's a point, which is like it all depends on how you feel about life. I don't think that I'm defined by being a musician. As a musician, I'm not very good, to be honest. So I feel that I kind of like do things here and there, and that I can do them better or worse. And then the audience and the public can confirm if I have more money to make the next project. But I don't think it's like an identity crisis that I've realized that I've fed up with this. You know, I want to do something different than music. It's just another experience. And because of this thing about being ignorant, really, or not ignorant, but not know, you know, and I get excited about life, which only happens to me when I'm doing something that I feel like new, and there's a feeling that I'm constantly changing and that I'm kind of erasing what I've done before to be able to update myself so that I don't live in the same place, if you know what I mean. And there's also that responsibility as an artist to do something that really is worthwhile. When I do something that I've already done and that I'm more or less familiar with the formula and I know what it is, I feel like it's like shit. And so I try to find situations where there are more things at stake, where I feel a little bit more insecure, and I feel that I have to put everything in the and I think that things come out a little better. So I want to carry on trying. I want to write a script to be able to direct, but I hope to do and to be other things that are not just musician, rapper, director, or singer, maybe in the future. And I suppose that's it. I'm going to thank you in the name of the festival for accepting our proposal of film talks and personally for the generosity of your replies. Thank you very much.